Hello, thank you for joining me here at Why the Book Wins, where I compare books with their movie adaptations. My name is Laura, and today is not a book versus movie video. It is a more relaxed, laid-back video where we are talking about unpopular, controversial opinions. So on my community page, I asked you to comment what your unpopular opinion is, and in today's video, I will be going through and reading those and responding. So as I go through these comments, share your thoughts down below, and if you missed the chance to post an unpopular opinion, post one right here on the comments of this video. And originally I was going to share some of my own unpopular opinions before then reading yours, but I actually got a good amount of comments. So thank you so much to everybody who left a comment. I really appreciate that. But because I want to go through and read all of them, and I don't want this video to be crazy long, I am just going to share one of my unpopular opinions, controversial opinions. It's also kind of a pet peeve as well, but that is movie watchers and maybe even book readers too, but this is more specific to movies because I notice it more in movie reviews. People need to embrace the suspension of disbelief. Not everything in a movie needs to make logical sense. And if it's based on a true story, that's different. But most movies, they're just fictional and just who cares? Not everything needs to make sense, you know? For example, Trap, the M. Night Shyamalan movie, a lot of people criticized it for having like an unrealistic plot. They were like, that makes no sense. That would not have happened in real life. So what? It's just a movie. Just have fun with it. Enjoy it. Don't be concerned with, oh, everything has to make sense. Everything has to be realistic. Like, sure, when a movie does have a reasonable explanation for everything, that's always impressive that they make an effort to do that. And yet, I have nothing against movies that just get kind of ridiculous. Not even ridiculous. There's movies where it's something so minor and people will nitpick it. Also, there is a reviewer. He has millions of subscribers, so I can call him out and it's not going to hurt his fan base. But the Penguins Zero guy, when Alien Romulus came out, I saw that and I loved it. And so I watched a couple of reviews for it, and then YouTube suggested his review to me, so I watched it. And he was super nitpicky about like this one scene that made no sense and there's no way that would have happened. When we're talking about this sci-fi alien movie, why are you going into this wanting it all to make sense? Like, are you serious right now? Same with a movie I have not heard many people talk about, and that is Fight or Flight, which is another Josh Hartnett movie. So I saw that in theaters. And it's a fun time. It's chaotic, it's ridiculous, it's over the top. And there is a scene when he has a chainsaw that is turned on and he throws it to someone else and they catch it and proceed to use it. And so I saw this in theaters, and it was me and a group of 3 other people, and we left the theater at the same time, and one of them in the group asked me what I thought of the movie. And I was like, oh, I liked it. You know, I had a fun time watching it. And one of them was like, yeah, but that scene when he threw the chainsaw, like, there's no way they would have been able to catch that. Like, blah, blah, blah. It didn't make sense. And so that's what I told them was, yeah, but you just need to embrace the suspension of disbelief. Like, why are we so critical about every little thing needing to make logical sense or be accurate to real life? So anyway, that is one of my potentially unpopular opinions, pet peeves. And now I'm going to go through and read yours. So this first one, I have been hearing a lot recently about how reading in public or posting about reading is performative. Not that it can't be, but I think it's gotten to the point that I love doing both things, and I've been accused of being performative when I've been a reader all my life. Yeah, I would agree with that. Reading in recent years, it seems like it has become more of a fad in some ways. And so yeah, some people are doing it to be performative, but obviously plenty of people have been readers their whole life, and they're not being performative. So yeah, anyway, I would agree with that one. Young adult always has the best premise, which is completely wasted because of its focus on Mary Sue self-inserts and love triangles. So I don't read too many YA books, but a big reason why I don't read many YA is because I dislike the characters, the way they're written, and they're always so stereotypical. And someone commented saying the worst offense is making the female character a not like other girls. And yeah, so many YA books, that is what the main female character is like. And I agree, it drives me crazy. And so I don't dislike YA books because of the plots. I dislike them because of the character development that goes on. So I can't say whether or not I agree that they have the best premise because, like I said, I don't gravitate towards those ones, so I haven't read enough to say that. But I do agree that the character developments, the Mary Sue self-inserts, the not like other girl tropes, yeah, they kind of ruin YA books for me. Books, movies are allowed to be entertainment and do not have to have a bigger message or deeper meaning to be good. Yeah, I totally agree. Especially if it's a book that does have a deeper message or that is like more challenging to read for one reason or another. They can be more mentally and emotionally taxing. So I think I personally like to balance reading a book like that with then moving on to something that's just fun and light and pure entertainment. So yeah, I agree. And I know it seems like maybe people who read nonfiction will act like they're superior because I only read nonfiction versus you people that are reading made-up stories. But yeah, that's just so silly because there's nothing wrong with just enjoying fiction and just enjoying it for entertainment reasons. And it's been shown that reading fiction helps you build empathy and think more of others, so that fiction has its own pros as well. So ultimately, like, read whatever you want. People who are concerned with what other people are reading also seem silly. Like, just read what you prefer, and who cares what the other people around you are reading, you know? The next one, the first Twilight film, had so much potential. I haven't read the book. The premise is quite interesting if you get the characters right. It could have been a classic. So I have read the book, and I liked it when I was a teenager, not so much when I was an adult, because again, going back to YA characters, the main character of Bella was so cliche and just poorly written, and that book also is just kind of it's more bland than I had remembered from when I was a teenager. But yeah, the movie still had potential if they had made more changes to the book, but then it's also tough because the book had so many fans that they couldn't risk making too many changes and upsetting the fan base. So it was kind of difficult, but I'm neutral on the Twilight movies. I don't hate them. I don't love them. I don't find them as entertaining as other people do, where it's like so bad it's good and they love it. I am just neutral. I'm just kind of like whatever about them, honestly. Next one, reading to consume something and reading to acquire something are not the same, but we can appreciate both. I feel like many consumers criticize acquirers for being snobby, elitist, and vice versa. Consumers are called lazy, uneducated. We don't have to yuck others, yum. Yeah, I totally agree. Just like I said earlier, just read what you want. And why are we concerned with what other people are reading? Like, who cares? So yeah, anyway, I agree with that one. Whether you're reading to consume something or to acquire something, you can do both. You can do one, and the other people around you, just let them do whatever. Not everything needs to be groundbreaking or thought-provoking. Yeah, so this kind of goes in line with what some of the other people have said. Like, whether it's for entertainment or learning, both have their merits. I would prefer a page-for-page adaptation for movies. I don't mind a 6-hour film that only has a cumulative 45 minutes of dialogue. I understand why changes are made from book to a visual medium such as film or television, but I'd still much prefer that the book is adapted with absolutely no modifications. And someone commented, sounds controversial indeed. Yeah, that's definitely a controversial opinion. I would definitely disagree. But yeah, I'm trying to think. I mean, I know I said Rosemary's Baby was incredibly faithful, but that's a shorter book. And Ira 11 has such a cinematic way of writing. And so the movie was so faithful, though, because there would be scenes where it would say like, oh, she held the book in her mail and tried to balance the two and handed the book to Minnie so that she could open the door. And then the movie like reenacted that exactly. So that was an incredibly faithful movie that almost did include every little thing. But also Ira 11, again, he's a very cinematic author, and so he doesn't include many scenes that don't translate well to screen. But yeah, generally, yeah, this is an unpopular one. And I love seeing the changes that a movie makes. And yeah, anyway, I'd love to know what you all think of this comment. Do you want a page-for-page detail adaptation like this? Let me know. I think Lolita is a very well-written satire. So I have never read Lolita or seen the movie. I would love to cover it, though. But yeah, it seems like one of those that is sort of misunderstood. But I say that as someone who only knows the premise and has not actually read it. But yeah, I feel like it's one of those that people make assumptions about what the message of the book is, but they're not seeing that there's more to it than that, you know? Yeah, I feel like I would probably agree with you, but that's hard to say since I haven't actually read it. I miss when songs were more multi-layered with unique fusions of sounds. Honestly, not everybody reaches this point in life, but I've reached a point in life where I don't pay attention to new music. I don't listen to the radio either. And so when I'm out running or driving, 99% of the time I'm listening to an audiobook or a podcast, or I'm just listening to songs that I've loved for a long time now, and I don't pay attention to what the new stuff is. So yeah, honestly, I'm not a great person to talk to about music because I don't pay as much attention to music as I used to. So yeah, anyway. I feel like too many people hate read books and will then personally attack the author in their review. There are some authors I refuse to read, like Cormac McCarthy, because of who they are as a person. So why would I torture myself by hate reading one of their novels? Yeah, I definitely agree with this one. And this is another thing, maybe like the comment earlier talking about how reading has become performative. When you are making content about books, you also need content about books you dislike. And so I used to lean more towards booktube related videos. And so I would have a video at the end of the year being like the worst books that I read. And one year, there was a book that I knew would be bad, but I was going to read it with the thought that, hey, it'll give me something to talk about in my worst books of the year video. However, I realized how stupid that was. And when people read books, going into it knowing, like being super critical because they just assume they'll dislike it. I agree. I don't like reviews like that either. Also, I didn't know Cormac McCarthy had something negative with him. But I feel like people too, when they do that, when they make these videos and specifically are insulting the author as a person for something they've done, I don't always love when people bring that up because if it relates to the book, then yeah, bring it up. But otherwise, I feel like this is another unpopular opinion, I guess, of my own. We're not consciously expecting people to be perfect. And yet when someone has something unsavory in their past, we feel the need to address it and to, make a stand, make a show about like, oh, this guy wrote amazing books, but he did do this. If what the person did is something so egregious, then yeah, just avoid their books entirely. Also, so if the person is alive, like J.K. Rowling, right? She is alive. She is benefiting. She is making money from people reading her books, watching, the new show, whatever. And not only that, but she is then using that money for these causes she believes in, which hurt other people. And so with her, it's like, yeah, don't even hate read anything. Don't hate watch her stuff because she is profiting from that, even if you're doing it because you're hate reading it. But then also, if someone has done something bad in their past, but they're now dead, I feel like who cares? Like you may as well read what they did or watch their movies because now they're dead. It's not like they're profiting off of it anymore. And so Roman Polanski is someone where I did cover Rosemary's Baby, but because he's still alive, I decided I don't want to cover any more of his stuff because he is still profiting off of people watching his movies. Once he's dead and no longer benefiting, maybe I'll cover The Ninth Gate, but while he's still alive, I don't want to read his stuff or watch his stuff. Because again, what he did was bad enough that I want to avoid him. But generally, sometimes I feel like we're just too critical of people just because they have done bad things. Like we've all done bad things. Just because the bad things I've done are different than the bad things they've done, it doesn't make me a better person necessarily. And so it seems performative and trying to prove how good we are when we feel the need to point out something bad this author or filmmaker has done. And so anyway, this video is unscripted in case you can't tell. And sometimes I feel like the reason I script my book versus movie videos is so that I can organize my thoughts and not ramble. So I feel like I'm going to be a bit too rambly in this video. Anyway, I hope everything I just said made sense. So on to the next comment. God Emperor of Dune is the best of the series. Leto 2 in God Emperor form is the most interesting character from the series. So yeah, I loved God Emperor of Dune. I wish I would have made a video sharing my thoughts, but at the time I finished it, we were in the middle of moving, and so I just didn't have the energy to film a video about it. But I did love that book, and I agree. Leto 2 in that book, he's a fascinating character, and just his appearance is just so insane and bizarre, and as a person, as a character, yeah, that's a fascinating book, and he's an interesting character. So yeah, I would agree. Nothing beats To Kill a Mockingbird for me, 3 full readings. The Stand comes in second. I've only read To Kill a Mockingbird twice, once in high school, and I loved it, and then I read it again in like 2017. And yeah, I really liked it then too. So I would like to do a book versus movie for it. I can't say it's my favorite book of all time because I would need to read it again to determine that. But yeah, I do remember loving it. So next up, another Dune one. Dune is overrated. I was a big fan. Went down the rabbit hole a few years later, I realized it's definitely more edgy than deep and functional. My backup hot take is Game of Thrones is about tree men and barely anyone knows. Yeah, Dune. I mean, I definitely love Dune. I really like the book. I love the Denis Villeneuve movies. And yet, the book is certainly not like my favorite book of all time, and the movies are also not my favorite movies of all time, but I do love them for sure. So I get, in some ways, I could agree that it's overrated because a lot of people do consider it their all-time favorite. If someone says Dune is their favorite book, good for them. And I'm not going to try to convince them otherwise. But yeah, I could see how some people might feel it's overrated because its fan base are just such diehards. Oh, and then as far as Game of Thrones, I've never read or watched that because I'm not super into fantasy, so I have no opinion on that comment. I have no desire to read or watch Lord of the Rings because of how long and boring I find these movies when they were originally released. Then someone commented, I feel this. I watched the Hobbit adaptations first and actually enjoyed them, watched Lord of the Rings afterwards, and really felt nothing. I found Merry and Pippin to be extremely annoying and didn't even like Sam because he was so mean to Smeagol. Wow, those two are both very controversial. Okay, so this first one, I agree with the books. I love the movies. And when the movies came out, I was 13, 12, 13, and my school library had an abridged version. And so I did read Fellowship of the Ring at that time. But as an adult, I tried reading the unabridged version and I did not finish it because I found it boring. And I just don't like fantasy in books. Movies, I enjoy it better, but having to read a book in this fantasy world, I have a hard time getting into that. So I agree as far as the books are concerned that I just have no desire because I personally find them boring. As far as the movies, I thought they were great. And this person, I watched the Hobbit adaptations first and actually enjoyed them. So I saw the first two Hobbit movies in theaters, and the second one, I went into it thinking that was the final film. And so when it ended, and we were shown that there will be a third movie, I was so mad because I thought it was going to be a 2-movie thing. Yeah, I am not a huge fan of the Hobbit movies. I think they dragged that out way too much. But then the original Lord of the Rings trilogy, I do love watching those movies. And Merry and Pippin, I loved them. And Samwise, he's like one of the favorites of so many people, including myself. So yeah, wow, those are definitely some unpopular opinions. I guess my most controversial opinion is that we don't need flawed characters as protagonists that we can identify with. We just need an interesting character arc. I feel like the quest for flawed characters, writers end up creating the most unbearable protagonists we actually hate. I was going to write something similar. I just can't watch a movie where each protagonist is a 20-something supermodel, not because I'm uglier, but because it breaks every suspension of disbelief that I can't get engaged in the story. That's why I love to love less than perfect characters, like in Kinds of Kindness, each of them. I just want real-looking people, even odd-looking people. In a plot, I can't predict where it goes. So this first one, I mean, I love a flawed character because it makes them feel more realistic, which is what they're pointing out. But then, yeah, I guess there's a line where it's like a flawed character, but then it can slide into the territory of someone we just hate reading about. So I want a flawed character that I like reading about. So there's that. But also characters that are played by very attractive people. I agree that can be sort of distracting. I'm trying to think of a specific movie. Yeah, and I always think of Tina Fey once. She said that in order to be on TV, you need to be someone people find interesting to look at, either because you're attractive or just because there's something about you that's interesting to look at, you know? And so maybe we need more interesting looking people and not people who are just attractive, right? Obviously, a good performance is the most important thing, whether they're attractive or not. Yeah, interesting thoughts here. I would rather see a Michael Crichton adaptation than a Stephen King adaptation. So I obviously love Stephen King, but I will say he gets so much attention. He's getting so many adaptations. Like, can't we spread the love out a bit more? I know Stephen King, he brings in the money, and so that's why they keep doing his movies. And yet at the same time, I wish we would get adaptations from a different author. Like this year alone, we have had so many King movies. On one hand, it's great. On the other hand, it's a lot. So yeah, I would love to see more Michael Crichton movie adaptations as well. What are your thoughts on the upcoming Wuthering Heights adaptation? There has been so many reactions to this. Do you have a favorite book to movie adaptation of Wuthering Heights? I have never read Wuthering Heights. I was going to in the early years of Why the Book Wins, but then when the Emerald Fennel movie was released, I decided I would wait until that came out, so I'm waiting till February to read it. And my thoughts on the upcoming adaptation, I have no thoughts. I didn't particularly like Saltburn, so I'm still excited for the movie. Like we'll see what happens, but I'm not judging it. People making posts about how it's going to be horrible before it's even come out, like calm down. You haven't even seen the movie yet. So people insulting it and having these dramatic opinions about how it's going to be terrible. I don't care what people are saying, because until you've seen the movie, like, don't be saying what you think about it. That's my opinion. For the movie versions, I like the film Dr. Sleep better than The Shining. My favorite Hitchcock film is Shadow of a Doubt. Best on-screen adaptation of Jane Eyre is I Walked with a Zombie. Best on-screen adaptation of The Tempest is Forbidden Planet. So I've never read The Tempest or seen Forbidden Planet. I don't think I've seen that. And then I've never seen I Walked with a Zombie, so I can't respond to either of those. My favorite Hitchcock film is Shadow of a Doubt. I love Shadow of a Doubt. It's been a long time since I've seen it, so I should rewatch it. But yeah, I remember it being fantastic. So as of right now, I just recently watched Rear Window, so that's in my mind. So as of right now, that is what I would say is my favorite Hitchcock. But Shadow of a Doubt is a solid pick as your favorite. I also just recently watched Psycho, which I've seen before, so I rewatched that. And that is definitely his most well-known film. But yeah, that wouldn't even crack my top 5 Hitchcock movies, I don't think, despite that being his most popular. For the movie versions, I like the film Dr. Sleep better than The Shining. So I love both. I love Dr. Sleep. I think they did a fantastic job combining the movie with the book Dr. Sleep and The Shining book and movie. So I think that movie is excellent. But yeah, I love The Shining too. So no judgment on you preferring Dr. Sleep. I think that's a solid opinion, but I would probably still say I prefer The Shining between the two. But yeah, I love Dr. Sleep. I think The Magician's TV show is better than the books. I also think that Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance is overhyped and an example of a book that was not marketed for what it actually is. I have never seen The Magician's TV show or read those books, and I've never read Zen of the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance. So these two I have no opinion on. I've given up on being a book purist. By its very nature, adaptation has to make changes, if for no other reason than to account for the change in medium. So this is like the opposite of the earlier comment, right? And this is one I would be more in agreement with. Again, it's an adaptation, right? The definition of adaptation is change, adapting for a new environment. And a film is a new environment than the page. And so, yeah, I don't think when I was younger, I was probably more strict, like, if that character had black hair, they better have black hair in the movie. And yet now, I just want them to stay true to the message of the original material. And yeah, so I'm totally fine with changes as well. My opinion is going to be very spicy and most definitely very hot take. I think Hollywood should do a second remake of The Stepford Wives, but as a horror film by A24 Studios or Neon. So I agree with this. I enjoy the Nicole Kidman adaptation. It's silly and fun. But yeah, I would love... Another controversial opinion, I enjoy remakes. As long there's like a caveat, because I want them to do something different. I want to feel like there was a reason why they chose to remake this, to make some sort of change, to make it apply to our current day, or, whatever commentary they want to add. So I want there to be a reason for the remake to exist. But yeah, I'm totally fine with remakes, to be honest. So yeah, I too would love to see another Stepford Wives adaptation. Gone with the Wind is my all-time favorite book and movie, is because the characters are awful people and awful things happen to them. All of the characters start out rich slave owners and then go on to suffer immensely. I've never understood why it was considered a book that romanticized the South. To me, it's a fantastic example of that's what you get for being a trash person. I have not read this book, so I cannot comment. I do love the movie. I've seen it multiple times, the most recent time being in 2021 or something. And yeah, I still liked it. And I would like to do a book versus movie adaptation. It's just that book is over 1,000 pages. So that and The Count of Monte Cristo, they're just so time consuming. I mean, I read It and The Stand, so clearly I was able to make time for those. So yeah, I would love to make time for Gone with the Wind and The Count of Monte Cristo. I was going to write about how tired I am of reboots, sequels, midquels, and remakes, but I don't think that's a huge hot take. Yeah, I feel like that's a pretty common opinion. But like I said, I'm totally fine with it for the most part. The Roses, that's a great example of the kind of remake I love. So I don't think any movie is untouchable. Maybe certain movies, the more popular they are, the longer you need to wait before you remake it. But I don't think any movie is untouchable as long as they have a good enough reason for the remake. Another spicy, very controversial opinion I've got: I don't think it's impossible for Hollywood to make a movie adaptation about The Catcher in the Rye. We've got CG technology today that could be used. So I've only read Catcher in the Rye once, and that was in high school. So I don't know why it hasn't been adapted. I don't know what's in it that they would even need CGI for. I guess my memory of it is too hazy, but I guess I would agree. I would have to read that again to know why people feel it's unadaptable. Anyway, I guess I don't have much of an opinion on that one because I need to reread Catcher in the Rye. So anyway, let me know your thoughts on Catcher in the Rye down in the comments. There's such a thing as a competent director that makes boring movies. Chris Nolan makes movies that are cinematically gorgeous, but I leave the theater not having enjoyed the movie. Alternatively, Batman Forever is one of my favorite movies to rewatch. I do love the Christopher Nolan Batman movies. It's been a while since I've seen them. I saw Batman, or The Dark Knight. I saw that one like 3 times in theaters. It was such a huge moment when that movie came out. And then, of course, the death of Heath Ledger. But I also really enjoy Batman Begins. But right here, right now, in this moment, if you were to ask me what movie I wanted to rewatch, one of the Nolan Batman movies or Batman Forever, I would totally say Batman Forever because I do like that one a lot too. And what a great cast. Nicole Kidman, Jim Carrey, Val Kilmer, Tommy Lee Jones. Yeah, I love that one. And it's so fun and entertaining. Yeah, I love Batman Forever. And Christopher Nolan, he used to be one of my favorite directors. But in more recent years, I mean, I still love Interstellar. But Oppenheimer, I did not think that was the best movie of 2023. I made a video ranking the best picture nominees. And I think I put Oppenheimer at I don't even remember, 5th or 6th place. And so, yeah, I mean, I agree. Like you say, technically he's very talented and skilled, but I do feel like maybe he's just a little bit overrated. My hot take, I don't think you should give a review for a book you didn't finish. So yeah, I agree. And they specifically say don't review a book when you've only read a chapter or 2. So yeah, I would agree with that. I did used to have a book versus movie video for a book that I read 2/3, 3/4 of it. I don't remember exactly. There was just a little bit left that I did not read. But the book was upsetting me so much that I couldn't bring myself to finish it because I was getting so angry. I have since privated that video, in part because people did say, this isn't even a complete review because you didn't even finish the book. And so as time went on, I was like, you know what? That's a fair point. But especially if you have only read a chapter or 2, what are you doing leaving a review for it? And so, yeah, I agree. I don't know if this is necessarily a hot take, but changing the ethnicity or gender of a character in any film or TV adaptation of a fictional work is not the end of the world. 100% agree. When it's a made-up character, who cares? Okay, actually, if their ethnicity or gender is key to who they are as a person, then yeah, you got to keep it the same. For example, I've covered Native Son, and the main character is Black. And when the first adaptation was made, Hollywood studios wanted him to be an Italian character. And the author of the book was like, no, the story doesn't make sense if he's Italian, so he did not sell them the rights. And so yeah, when their ethnicity is key to who they are, then it should be kept the same. But I feel like the majority of fictional books out there, the ethnicities can be so interchangeable and it literally doesn't matter. So when people make a huge deal about this, I don't understand it. So yeah, I would agree. I cannot stand Wuthering Heights. I've never read it. I can't comment. I also find The Great Gatsby to be incredibly boring. I really love The Great Gatsby. It's not a 5-star book, but I do think it's fantastic. I can see why someone would think it was boring though, so I don't, I'm not going to hate on someone for finding it boring, but I did like it. And then 2 people commented agreeing with them. Pulp Fiction, the movie, is more boring than half the Barbie movies that exist. The only Barbie movie I've seen is the Greta Gerwig, Margot Robbie Barbie. But yeah, Pulp Fiction, kind of like Christopher Nolan. When I was younger, Quentin Tarantino was like one of my favorite directors, a very cliche thing for a young movie lover to name him as their favorite, right? And as I've gotten older, I still think he's incredible. And I probably prefer his movies over Christopher Nolan's. So I feel like as I've gotten older, the Tarantino movies hold up better than Christopher Nolan movies do. But I should rewatch Pulp Fiction. It's been a long, long time since I've seen that, probably 10 years. So yeah, I remember liking it, but who knows? Because my opinions on some of these directors have changed over the years. Harry Potter 6 and 7 needed more time in the oven. 6 was terrible, too many plot holes. So I have read all of the Harry Potter books. I read them for the first time ever in 2019. But that was in 2019, so that was a while ago now. I don't even remember which one was my favorite. I think I enjoyed 6 and 7 though. But again, it's been so long, I would need to reread them to share my thoughts on this opinion more fully. I love the Harry Potter books. I'm really excited for the faithful adaptation HBO series until. So they're upset with the casting of the HBO series, which I have not been paying attention. Like, I'll see stuff about that on social media, but I don't seek out information about the HBO series because I won't be watching it and I just don't really care what they're doing. Yeah, I guess I'm not personally invested, so I don't care enough to have an opinion, aside from the fact that if they're changing the genders of Voldemort, if they're changing the ethnicity of Snape, I think that's all fine. I don't think Snape's ethnicity was key to his character, so if he's played by a black guy, I think that's fine. Voldemort, whether he's a man or a woman, I don't think that's really integral to the character of Voldemort, so I don't think that's a big deal either, personally. So I guess generally I would say these are maybe unpopular opinions, I don't know. But anyway, for the most part, I haven't really been paying attention to what's going on with the HBO show. Game of Thrones show was never good. Books are better. Never seen the show, never read the books. So yeah, anyway, I guess no opinion on that. Just because you read about black magic doesn't mean you practice dark magic. Yeah, agreed. And then recasting characters never works. More often than not, it breaks personal suspension of disbelief in favor of navigating personal or creative biases and nepotism and detracts from the film. For example, recasting Mara in the sequel to The American Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. So that's like the girl in the spider's web. Yeah, it's one of the later books, but a true sequel would have been if they continued with the trilogy and done The Girl Who Played with Fire, right? So that one, The Girl in the Spider's Web, feels so different, like it's just doing its own thing, that I feel like it doesn't really matter who they cast in that role. But for the most part, yeah, I think it's best to try to maintain the same actors in a series. But yeah, David Fincher, he didn't do The Girl in the Spider's Web. So again, yeah, I feel like them recasting Rooney Mara for that, I personally don't really care, But again, these are about unpopular opinions, so it makes sense if I would disagree since the opinion is unpopular. And then lastly, The Shining book and movie is grossly overrated. I obviously disagree. I'm even wearing my Shining shirt today, so I love both of those. So that's definitely an unpopular opinion. So thank you to those who commented, like, unpopular opinions. It's always fun to read someone who has a very different view. And yeah, ultimately, people can love and like and dislike and hate whatever they want, as long as they're not harming other people in the process or whatever. But yeah, thank you all for sharing your unpopular opinions. I hope you have enjoyed watching this video. I hope I haven't been too rambly. So let me know your thoughts down in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will see you next time. Bye.